In our long wanderings on this earth, there have always been inconvenient women. Women who thought too much, who would not keep quiet, who were not afraid to be disagreeable. I was one of them. I was everything I was not supposed to be, everything they did not want me to be. Steeped in war and violence, I found myself sailing beyond all good and evil. I was propelled by my will to exist. I was so many things at once. A privileged child, issued from Königsberg's respectable, conservative, Jewish Prussian upper middle class. A precocious child, walked out of the shadows of history. I was headed who knows where. A refugee, a pariah, stateless, paperless Jew. An audacious, intrepid being. I was the first woman to be appointed full professor in 1959 Princeton. How did it feel? I don't know. I was quite used to being a woman. Small first lady. Not a real beauty, if you ask me, even though I saw many men fall under my spell, bad boys, good boys alike, from across the whole socio-political spectrum of the age. Fascists, liberals, conservatives, communists, Zionists, anarchists, aristocrats, proletarians, Gentiles, Jews, you name it. They said, my dark, exotic gaze rivaled the depths of my mind. Did it start with the family? Growing, I thought of myself as in the norm. I did what was expected of me, learning ancient Greek as a child, reading Kant at 13, delving into Kierkegaard at 14. The outside world, I was a freak. I was getting ready for my encounters with destiny. I met the secret king in my freshwoman year at Marburg University. He was the god of phenomenology. Martin Heidegger, professor of being and time. I was 18, he was 35. How did you aspire to his philosophical equivalent? I desperately wanted him to see past my wretched shyness, with my big nose, my frizzy hair. Oh, Martin, do you remember? I was a self-eroded Jew. I was crushed by the weight of my existential contortions. You saw right through me and discovered the luminous portent of my mind. After 2 months, by your lectern, I was filling your eyes and your bed with my essence. The moment Herr Professor pressed his lips upon my lips, I shivered like the poor leaves in the autumn wind. I was not going to be his idle, experiment. Oh, His Majesty MH did not know it yet. My mind was so much stronger than his weak body. He wanted me to be with him entirely alone, free of worldly cares and doubts. I wanted him to breathe in my whole being. I wanted him to honor the splendor of my timelessness. I became his intellectual mistress. He groped my breasts with veneration. He thrust his Teutonic rod between my thighs. He paid me with the highest currency in circulation, access to his mind. That is when I first saw the abyss. Despite his sublime thought processes, my Mephistophelic mentor was not immune to the nauseating rhetoric of the times. 1933, in order to win his place as rector, he openly professed his support of Hitler's project. Martin joined the Nazi Party. In his inaugural speech, he had no qualms in regurgitating slogans as loaded as the Allied bombs that would later destroy his Third Reich. Martin embraced the unyielding spiritual mission of the German people. Once your God fell, did you feel indebted to your professor? His Wagnerian desire, the love he avowed me, his climbing of Tyrolean peaks, his exploring the depths of the Black Forest freed me from my self-loathing. I was no longer a frightened 17-year-old girl who watched her syphilitic father collapse into dementia. I did not recoil into a protective armor of pride. I faced the ostracism of the bourgeois world, a sort I belonged to. This time spent in Heidegger's alcove bestowed on me the self-confidence I needed. Thanks to Martin, I would become a brilliant, albeit scandalous, flower. I did not recoil into protective armor of pride. I faced the ostracism of the bourgeois world I thought I belonged to. This time spent in Heidegger's alcove bestowed on me the self-confidence I needed. Thanks to Martin, I would bloom into a brilliant, albeit scandalous, flower. After 4 years of training, will to power, I was ready to do what my sacred lover finally asked me to do. Leave me. Forget me. So, I left him to his wife and children. I left him to his devious anti-Semitism and nationalistic ideology. To protect my broken heart, I slipped into an armor. It made me look, sound harsh, exacting, cerebral. I was arrogantly aloof. Few knew How I ached inside. How I had come to see love as the utmost danger. I swore to myself that rational reasoning would be my master. Scarred by my professor's rejection, I had no choice. I accepted my destiny. This femme fatale, a recalcitrant femme fatale, the bold, the scathing, the defiant femme fatale. I did not please, but I was eager to understand. I refused to be a liar, a hypocrite. Exile started then and there. I uprooted myself, stepped out of impossible love. I was not scared to face intolerant foes. Being ostracized became a badge of honor. This badge I wear all my life and without a moment's hesitation. Then a Nazi aristocrat, he quoted me. I smiled. I said nonchalantly, I don't need another fascist in my life. What about your marriage? My first marriage at 22 was an instrumental affair, exorcism of the heart, if you will. I became the legal spouse of Gunther Stern Anders, a fellow former student at Marburg. I excised Professor Martin from my body and my psyche. This act of self-cleansing required a ritualistic dive into my Jewishness. Gunther, he did what he could to help me out of my sentimental quagmire, and I did what I could to financially support him as he tried to obtain, to no avail, a teaching position in an increasingly Nazified Germany. Ah, alas. Those were the years of brutal racial reckoning. By the time we fled for Paris, our marriage had already disappeared into nothingness. From these scraps, a new Hannah would arise. I became a rebel with the cause. I helped young Jews find a new homeland far from Europe's judophobia. I enjoyed my active life as a Zionist volunteer. But then I rebuked the Zionist movement for its failure to resolve the Arab question in not allowing a birth of a binational state in Palestine. So, as France fell under the German heel, I fell for Heinrich Blücher. He was non-Jewish, a working-class autodidact, a Spartacist, or a brave street fighter, disillusioned communist, became a hopeless anarchist. My mother would often remind me, you two are worlds apart. I would protest. This gorgeously handsome proletarian who had never graduated, who worked in cabarets till 1933, knew far more about history and politics than any of my academic colleagues. Oof. I learned a thing or two from this bohemian. He was a self-made intellectual whose voracious reading habits, as well as his eroticism, set me on fire. It would be hard to imagine a more courageous man. Or one more different than my Nazified professor. Tempest-tossed is a dangerously totalitarian madness. Heinrich and I married shortly before jumping on one of the last boats to safety. We left Europe for the USA in May 1941. You moved to New York. New York. How I hated its steel and concrete surfaces, its incorporated materialism. Yet, how I cherished its freedom, its liberal-minded crowds. Learning English after my immersion in Paris bistro culture was a real pain. But it paid off. English was the victorious idiom of a rising global empire. I started teaching and publishing in that foreign language. I lured the most engaging intellectuals into my den. Writers came to me like flies to honey. Students 20 years younger than me fell under my fascination. The eroticism of an unconventional mind. I felt desired, invincible. Now, what I wrote made me highly contested, harshly criticized, furiously reviled. To my detractors, I was no more than a poser, a fraud, moral failure. I knew that the clarity of my reasoning would be unbearable to those used to cut corners, to men and women who anxiously avoided discording opinions, opposing arguments. But I would not desist. I sought further. I offended. I challenged established views and ideological senselessness. Children? No. I didn't have any children. Ooh, too bad, you might whisper. Was I content with giving birth to new ideas instead? Perhaps. I was lucky to have work that fulfilled me, that strengthened my responsibility. I wish my books, my paper children, well, may my books pass the test of time and age. May my books thrive with a purpose. May my books have a life of their own. My generosity to the world. I do what I can. I never preach. I want to open up new dimensions of thinking. I hope that what I write will provide illumination against the dark forces that linger at the boundary of our perception. Totalitarianism is a dangerous beast. Always it is ready to feed on its favorite fodder, the denigration of truth. Foul as it may sound, I never forgot the love of my youth, my despicable professor, the great denier. My sun, uneclipsed, my pain scarcely measured, my tears preserved, unspilled. After years of loathing and longing, we reunited. I went to visit him and his jealous wife in their country house, deep in rural Germany. Was I looking for retribution? Perhaps. On his part, no words of forgiveness were uttered, no need for atonement was invoked. Herr Professor had arisen almost unscathed from the ashes of the Third Reich. Martin had been able to impose his thought categories on me, determining what I liked, what I disliked, whom I despised, or simply ignored. There could be no half measures. Pure intellectual elitism. My socio-political analysis might no doubt be accurate, but my detractors will argue I fail to sound, if not authentic, humanely empathetic. Are you hiding behind an imposed hard core? Do I want to avoid the suffering of the first unbearable heartbreak? Perhaps. My plea for rational, honest thinking, my call for happiness and oneness, I have found with my heroic proletarian husband. I have to accept the unutterable truth. I can only exist in this native tainted love with my contradictions, with my faulty stances, for which I endure vitriolic accusations. The love of our masters, shared in blissful moments. Secret letters, instant poems. Against his absence, the bell of the world ringing in our hearts. I will die of a heart stroke in the same manner as I lived, starkly, acutely, definitively. I will leave space enough for ambiguities and open endings. Are academics conservative? Yes! I claim that academics are the most conservative of the remaining castes, the most prone to compromise themselves with the established power. Universities are the only institutions that can preserve freedom of thought as long as they don't become politicized and lose their soul. When I talk about the banality of evil, I do so not to underrate the role of Nazi bureaucrats like Eichmann in the genocide of millions of Jews and political opponents, but to warn everyone that we are all capable of perpetrating evil against another. What does thinking mean? Thinking needs to be dangerous. If an idea doesn't cast doubt, debunk cliches, undermine conventions, help us see through another's perspective, then it is a dead idea. Good teaching means infecting students with perplexities. If lying has been a part of politics, then let us have factual truth straight. Let us encourage islands of freedom to grow. What about love? My belief is that to love someone is to let them be. As St. Augustine wrote, amo volo utsis. I love. I want you to be what you are.